Kim, thanks for being here. Thanks so much for doing this. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about what you went through.
Okay. So May of last year, I went in for my regular mammogram. I had actually taken a couple years off due to COVID. I was hard getting appointments at that time, and I have never had a issue with any of my mammograms. But on this occasion, it did come back that there was something there that didn't belong there. So I went back. They did a biopsy, and it came back positive for what they call stage 0 breast cancer on the left side. Went, talked to oncologists, put together a treatment plan, and part of that treatment plan is they do an MRI to check both breasts, which is in addition to the mammogram. And it was at that point that they found cancer on the right side. So I had 2 different kinds of breast cancer, one on each side, found by 2 different modalities, one a mammogram, one an MRI, and both 2 different types.
How did that diagnosis impact your life?
So the diagnosis impacted me in ways that I, didn't think possible. For instance, I'm a 2-time Ironman, and very on top of everything. I mean, I would get my teeth cleaned every, 6 months. I get my mammogram every year, except through that little COVID period. I go to the dermatologist and get my checks all the time. So when it came back positive for cancer, I was shocked, and it made me realize if I can get breast cancer, anybody can get breast cancer. And so the first feelings and emotions were those of just, I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Right, and I'm assuming that it potentially affected loved ones, family, friends in ways that maybe you didn't foresee in the beginning either.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that the misconception is breast cancer only impacts those who are diagnosed, which isn't the case. I mean, it's a disease that impacts you as the patient, but then everyone around you. I was surprised how it impacted my 2 sons, who became more vulnerable to me because I'm watching them watch me not be well.
And how old are they?
Well, now
Or at the time?
Yeah, at the time they were 21 and 23. And it was just very open and honest with them about what was going on. My mom, can you imagine, as a parent, seeing your children go through something that could potentially be life-threatening, or going through potentially, painful procedures. I wasn't expecting to. I didn't think about that part.
Yeah, a lot of times people think, well, I'm an adult now, but your children are all your children. You have children and you know that, so, your mom feels the same way.
Yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Did it change your perspective of life? I mean, of course, I'm sure it did. What ways did it change?
Yeah, I don't think you can go through something like cancer and not be impacted. And in so many ways, obviously the physical aspects of it, emotionally you become vulnerable. You begin to think about your own mortality in ways that you hadn't before. You're scared. You're scared of the unknown. But those are all things that you can work through. And it also impacted me in a way that everything I learned, I wanted to share with other people, because I think the more knowledge, the better you are able to cope with and plan for what is your journey.
So is that something that developed for you? Is that kind of the early signs for you that I'm going to want to do more with this than just survive this process? I mean, did you figure that out while you were going through the process, or did you have to get through the process first before you realized that you
No, as I was going through the process, I guess it's in my DNA. I wanted to know how I could help others benefit from what I went through. Like, there's so much research out there, and not all of it's quality research. So not bombarding yourself with a bunch of information that's not helpful, being able to navigate through that. Learning to not blame myself. Like what did I do to get breast cancer? And I think it's really important that people know that they didn't do anything specific, to get this diagnosis. And it doesn't discriminate. It impacts anybody, men, women, transgender. It can impact especially women of color. It doesn't discriminate at all. And I did deal with a little bit of what did I do? What could I have done differently? So I think that's important for somebody to not have that take up mind space as they're going through their journey.
And you mentioned that it doesn't care who or where or what or what background the trend. Did you notice through your process that there are certain aspects of community, there are certain segments of communities that there's disparity in care, there's disparity in coverage, detection, learning processes?
Yes, absolutely. So women of color are about 30% more likely to be diagnosed at a later stage. And there's a varied reasons for that. For instance, disparity of health care, access to quality health care, trust with their doctors. I mean, that's very important. But yes, so they're being diagnosed at a later stage. And at a later stage diagnosis, the less options you have available to combat the disease.
Were there individuals that inspired you through this process?
Yeah, so of course, I am very lucky to have an amazing support group. Not just my family, who, my mom and my sister are both nurses, so I was very lucky in that aspect. My boys made me laugh all the time, but my friends came out for me in a way that I never expected. And I mean, just dropping by, sending random texts, bringing me lunch, doing my laundry, just really showed up in a way that I didn't expect. And as women, we try to put everybody else first. We want to take care of everybody else before we take care of ourselves. And when you're going through treatment, you're sick. And you don't want to put anybody out. So when somebody asks you, what can I do? We tend to say, we're fine, we got it. And they didn't do that, they just did it. And that was such a blessing. That really helped quite a bit.
What were some programs and services throughout that process that were exceptionally helpful for you?
Mm-hmm. So this is kind of a hard one for me because
okay.
There are support groups and things like that are available, but I didn't take advantage of those. I didn't do that. I really connected with my doctor, and I think that's what's so important. You have to advocate for your own health, and you have to be a partner in your own healthcare decisions. So I had complete access to my doctor. Like, if I needed something, I could text him and he would respond. So I had questions about the different options. And like I said, earlier detection, more options. It could be a deep surgery. It could be a total mastectomy. It could be a lumpectomy where they take out the tumor followed by radiation. And it's a very personal decision. You could be flat where you have nothing at all. It's very personal. So I reached out to women who I know who have gone through different procedures and got their experience. I was very much in communication with my doctor to get his feedback. And I got second opinion as well, and I think that's also very important. And I knew after doing all of that research, after talking to women who have been through it, I knew exactly what I wanted to do and what was right for me. And that was what gave me a lot of peace of mind and was helpful to me as, you know, as I went through that.
Were there specific obstacles that you remember having to overcome
Yes.
that you want to speak about?
Sure. So some of the obstacles, you know, it's very, I think, human nature to, you find someone that has been diagnosed with the same cancer as you, is going through the same treatment as you, on the same medication as you, but you could have two completely different cancer experiences. And so, you know, I would encourage women to listen to other women, but do not expect your journey to be the same as theirs. So for instance, for me, I had experienced complications from some of the surgeries, which put my final, to be on the other side of this, back by about 10 months. So there's another example would be, I'm on a medication that I am experiencing many side effects, where someone else who's on the same medication has none of the side effects. So it's important that you don't compare yourself to anybody else when it, you know, or feel guilty that, you know, I'm doing everything right, I'm doing what she did, but I'm not having the same experience or journey that they are. You know, my advice is to stay in the moment. It's easy to look at the end game, but then I feel like you set yourself up for disappointment, and just go through one step at a time. Like, get through this stage. And once you're at the end of that stage, then you're ready to take on the next stage to get you where you finally want to go. Because if you focus on the end, and you could be setting yourself up for disappointment. And I definitely had those along the way. So that would be my advice, not to do that.
So I know you talked a bit about misconceptions and stigmas about cancer, but is there more you want to talk a bit about, things that people are told, or things that they're, you know, kind of expecting going into this process based on what they've heard that's actually not accurate?
I have several of those. So first, and I mentioned it before, is it's nothing that you did that made you get cancer. Like it's important that I think patients realize that they don't carry that guilt with them going into the diagnosis and the treatment. You know, I think a big misconception is, once I get my mammogram, I'm good, and it comes back clean, I'm good until next year. And that is so not the case. It's so important that after you get your mammogram, that you still do your monthly checks in the shower. And like I like to tell my friends, it's your hands, your boobs, feel them in the shower, cup of feel, get them. And because if you wait, you find a lump, and you had waited a year till your next mammogram, then you're going to be diagnosed at a much later stage. So I think that's a huge misconception. Not just get your mammogram, but do your mammogram and monthly checks. Big misconception is, and I've heard several friends say this, is, well, breast cancer doesn't run in my family. I don't have the BRCA gene, so I'm not going to get breast cancer. And not having that gene does not make you immune to breast cancer. A smaller percentage of breast cancers come from a mutated gene. So that's not a reason not to get your mammogram, or even think that you're not going to get breast cancer.
From a community that, oh, this is what it's going to be like if I experience something like this, but didn't really work for you.
Right. So, yeah, I had many people tell me, stay in bed, rest, don't overdo yourself, take off all the time you need from work, eat all the comfort food that you want. While I think the intention is good, I'm not sure that's exactly the right thing to do. You know, I think we're social creatures. We need to be surrounded by our friends and our family. Work keeps your mind busy, And, you know, exercise. I mean, even if it's just a walk around the block, or if it's leg lifts while you're laying in bed, I think keep moving, keep socializing is healthy. And, you know, I didn't do that. And on the other side of it, it's taken me a lot longer to get to where I was before I was diagnosed. And it didn't need to happen that way. I didn't need to approach it that way. If I could do it all over again, I would have been more on top of that.
And that's a good question in itself. If you could do it all over again, was there anything else along the way that you wish you had done differently?
Yeah, I wish I had been more proactive in my own health. And this is part of that guilt that I'm telling you not to carry with you, but you know, yeah, I still think about it sometimes. I mean, because we go about our day, we're eating, we're drinking, we're, you know, we're enjoying life, we're living life. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But there are things that I could have done to mitigate some of what has happened. Because I can tell you, there's nothing more that you wish for more than when you're sitting across from the doctor and he says, you know, I'm sorry, but you have breast cancer. The only thing you wish for in that moment is that you wish you were healthy. And so, you know, I don't mean to overdo it, you know, go in and just go overdo it, but you know what's healthy and what's not, and just be mindful about that.
You mentioned that you found out early in this process that you wanted to do more to help others. What would you like to address about that? What did you learn from that process that made you become who you are now as an advocate?
Mm-hmm. There's too many women dying from this disease that doesn't need to be. When it's caught early, the numbers are good. The statistics for survival are really, really good. It's in the 90s. So I don't want people to die from this disease. I want them to know that if you stay on top of it, if you consider your lifestyle, get your mammograms and do your monthly checks in the shower, that this is something that you're going to have several options to decide what works for you. You're going to get through it. The chances of survival are really good, and that's a really important message.
Do you think people like yourself find from things like this, like they say a lot of times that successful entrepreneurs or people that go out and start great organizations, do you think that they find it within themselves going through things like that, or do you think maybe it was something that you were born with, or did it just awaken through the process?
It definitely was an awakening, I believe, through the process. You know, I went in thinking probably more old school about breast cancer, but the more I learned, the more that I realized, okay, I have options. I'm going to be fine. Yeah, it's going to suck. Cancer is rude, especially breast cancer. But I have options. I'm alive, and I'm going to get through this. And you know, I like to tell my friends that breast cancer, it's a word. It's not a sentence, but it's a word if you catch it early. So I'm on a mission to make sure people are aware that they've got to take care of themselves, be an advocate for themselves. If something's not right, they got to speak up. They have got to get their mammograms and do their checks, and then you're gonna make it. You're gonna be okay.
So, throughout this process, what did you find for yourself for support that you think others should know about? And not only for yourself, but support of others, because I know you said before,
Yeah.
it's not just you that's going through this.
Right. I was very blessed to have, you know, family, a core group of friends, an excellent relationship with my doctor, who I could connect with at any time to ask any questions. What I really want to make sure people know, because breast cancer just doesn't impact the patient, it impacts everyone around them, is that caregivers need support too. They're having to take on additional responsibilities now that their loved one is not well. They're seeing their loved one not well, which can have a devastating emotional impact on them. So caregivers really need to take time out, focus on their mental health and well-being, go for a walk, go get a massage. It's okay. Well, we need you to be healthy and mentally and physically to take care of the patients. So you could really do need to take care of yourself too.
What did you find out for yourself as far as support for people experiencing the process? What did you find as far as where can people find help? Where did you find it, the best places that you found it?
So, it's important that you know you're not alone. Like I said, there's 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer, and that's a lot of women, too many women. And there's support not only in your own local, your own support system, meaning friends, family, but there are support groups through hospitals, there are support groups through American Cancer Society, Breast Cancer Organization. Don't feel like you're alone, and don't think that you can't get help, because you can.